Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am going to be voting for my Goodreads picks for 2023. There are quite a few categories where I haven't read a single book from this year, so I won't necessarily vote on those, but once the winners are revealed, I want to do another video comparing my guesses to what's actually chosen in like the finalists and figure out which ones the winners are. So I want to at least make predictions in every categories, but I won't vote in every category. That doesn't feel fair if I didn't actually read any. So we're going to start with the categories I have no idea about and end with the categories I feel pretty familiar with. I have my handy dandy laptop, so if I'm looking down, it's because I'm actually voting on the awards. So the categories that we have are fiction, historical fiction, mystery and thriller, romance, romantasy, fantasy, science fiction, horror, young adult fantasy, young adult fiction, debut novel, nonfiction, memoir, autobiography, history and biography, and humor. So those last four categories, nonfiction, memoir and autobiography, history and biography, and humor, pretty confident I haven't read a single one in that category. I don't believe I've read a historical fiction either, so we're going to start with those five. And then horror, I might have read a horror that would be up for the Goodreads Awards this year, but I don't actually know. So let's start off with what the prediction for humor is going to be. All right, so looking at the first 12 for the humor, I recognize only Henry Winkler. I know that he was at Anderson's for a book event. Everything else, I honestly have no idea. I haven't even heard of the other 11 books. Couldn't tell ya. I think this will really reveal what my typical, genres are and what are not. The last 8 of the humor books, I recognize 2 of them. Again, I have not read any. The first one that I recognize is XOXO Cody. And if you don't know, Cody Rigsby was on Dancing with the Stars. He is a Peloton instructor. He's one of the most popular Peloton instructors, I would say. I remember he also had a book signing at Anderson's, and that sold out in like a heartbeat. And so in terms of a popularity type of contest, I could definitely see XOXO Cody being up there as at least a finalist. And then another finalist is Leslie effing Jones. I feel like I've seen it on Libby. It has a really long hold on Libby. So in terms of who I think the finalist would be, it's going to be between XOXO Cody, Leslie effing Jones, and then I think Henry Winkler's book. And we're going to guess those 3. I really don't even have a clue. I've heard of Z-Way before. I didn't know she had a book. So I'll throw her into the finalists as well. So I have 4 finalists. In terms of the winner, since this is more popularity based, I feel like it's gonna go to XOXO Cody. The people who are fans of Cody Rigsby are fans of Cody Rigsby, and I could definitely see them like voting and telling people in the Peloton Facebook groups to vote for Cody's book. Those are my guesses. I'm interested to see what is actually going to be right in the future. All right, next we have history and biography. All right, so looking at the first 12 books again, I recognize Martin Luther King Jr. on the cover of one of them. It's pretty much it. This is not good because I was a history teacher. I definitely should have recognized some more of this, but I just don't. It's just not what I read. And then in terms of the other 8, I recognize Elon Musk, but that's it. I think the titles do sound interesting in general. For example, like The Six, The Confidant, Master, Slave, Husband, Wife sounds really intriguing. When Crack Was King sounds really intriguing from the first set of 12. Killing the Witches, The Nazi Conspiracy. These are all books I think are so interesting, but I think one of the reasons I got so burned out for wanting to read was because of how much I read in college. So I don't usually gravitate towards more of these real life books. So it's hard for me to even think about what I could be a finalist for. I'm gonna do a finalist from one of each of these rows. That's how I'm gonna do this. So from the first row, I'm gonna give it to The Nazi Conspiracy. In the second row, we're gonna do King a Life. In the third row, we're gonna do When Crack Was King. In the fourth row, we'll just do the Elon Musk book, I guess. And then in the final row, let's do The Six. So my guesses for finalists are gonna be The Nazi Conspiracy, King a Life, When Crack Was King, the Elon Musk book, and then The Six. And I think the winner out of those 5, I'm just gonna go with King a Life. I feel like it's such an interesting, person, and I feel like there are a lot of memoirs and biographies and whatnot surrounding him, and I feel like they're generally well received. That's gonna be my guess. I'm definitely interested to see what's gonna be in win this category. All right, let's move on to memoir and autobiography. Okay, looking at the first 12, I see quite a few, at least that I recognize. Again, I've read none of these. So Prince Harry's memoir, which I don't think it hit as well as they were hoping to. I see Thicker Than Water, Kerry Washington's memoir, Paris Hilton's memoir, Elliot Page's memoir, Pamela Anderson's, Jill Duggar's memoir. I feel like this is like by far the one that I know the most books from, so it'll be interesting to see with categories I actually read what'll happen. If we move down to the lower 8, the only one I recognize is Britney Spears. So in terms of who I think is going to be the finalist, and we'll just do 4 for these because I actually have a little bit more of an idea of these. I definitely think that 4 of the finalists could be Elliot Page's book. I would say Britney Spears' book is also going to be a finalist. I would say Kerry Washington's book is going to be a finalist. And I am going to say, I'm trying to think between Prince Harry, the Duggars, and Pamela's, but I think I'm going to go with the Duggars because I feel like the Duggars recently had like some type of TV special or like they were in the news recently. So I feel like those 4 are going to be part of the finalists. So again, Thicker Than Water by Kerry Washington, Counting the Cost by Jill Duggar, Page Boy by Elliot Page, and then The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. What do I think is going to win? Realistically, I do think the Britney Spears memoir is going to win. I think there's a lot of hype around it. I think it is still on a lot of people's mind. I think the Libby Holds is definitely the longest for this book. So that's what I think. Again, based off popularity and based off trends, I feel like that's what's going to win. All right, 2 more categories I don't know, and then we're going to get into books I actually know. So now we're on to nonfiction. All right, I have no idea. I have no idea about any of these 12. 0. I feel like this is the one that I'm like least familiar with overall. I couldn't really tell you what any of these books would be about just by looking at the cover. And then the last 8, I don't know. So we're going to do what we did for the biography category. We're going to just take one from each row. And this is probably going to be based on cover. I really don't know anything about these books. So from the first row, the one that's pulling out to me the most is How Far the Light Reaches. It's a cool cover. I would say for the second row, we're going to go with Doppelganger. From the third row, I like the cover of Ultra Processed People the most. And then for the fourth row, I really like Cobalt Red, talking about the people of Congo. And honestly, I'm gonna just dub that as the winner. I feel like it's going to do well. Again, it's just my assumption. I don't know. And then from the last row, we're gonna do Never Finished. So those will be the 5 finalists that I think will be in there. How Far the Light Reaches, Doppelganger, Ultra Processed People, Cobalt Red, which I think is gonna win, and then Never Finished. All right, last category that I don't know anything about, historical fiction. Okay, I recognize a book in the first 12. Did you hear about Kitty Carr? I have definitely seen that on Libby. I've seen it in person. I feel like The Keeper of Hidden Books looks familiar. Couldn't tell you, to be honest. And then the last 8, I don't know. I have no idea. So we're gonna do the same thing where we pick from a row. This will be the last one that we do this for. I hope that this is the last one. So from the first row, I want to go with The Echo of Old Books. I feel like people who read books like reading about books. I feel like that'll do well. Then we're gonna do Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? I think that one's gonna win. In terms of popularity and who knows what, I feel like that one is going to win. Then in the third row, I'm gonna go with The Keeper of Hidden Books. Again, I feel like that's the cover I maybe have seen before. From the fourth row, I feel like these are all very similar covers. I'm gonna go with, there are 2 covers that have stickers on them, the Bayan Moon and River Sing Me Home. I'm gonna go with Bayan Moon. I like the sticker and the cover better. The best way to judge books. And then in the last row, we have another Reese's Book Club pick, The House of Eve. I'm just gonna go with that one. So the 5 finalists that I think they'll be are The Echo of Old Books, Did You Hear About Kitty Carr, which I think is gonna win, The Keeper of Hidden Books, Banyan Moon, and The House of Eve. All right, I'm gonna go horror next. I've definitely read some horror books this year. I just don't know if they're gonna be in the Goodreads category. And I'm hoping I at least recognize like an author in this list. I really hope I don't have to do it randomly again. Okay, in the first 12, while I haven't read any of these, I at least recognize some authors, so like Stephen King, which I feel like that's going to be some type of finalist. I also recognize T. Kingfisher. I feel like I've seen some of their books before on my For You page. Everybody else, I have no idea. And then the bottom 8 books, I recognize How to Sell a Haunted House, and that's it. Okay, well, this is going to have 3 finalists then, because I'm gonna do just the three I somewhat recognize. We'll do Stephen King's Holly, T. King Fixtures, A House with Good Bones, and then Grady Hendrix, How to Sell a Haunted House. And I'm gonna give it to Grady Hendrix. I feel like a lot of people have liked this book. I haven't read it. Again, I feel like I've read some horror this year, but I guess it just wasn't applicable to this category. So, How to Sell a Haunted House, I'm not voting for it because I haven't read it. That's not fair. I'm not doing that. So, horror was also one where I actually haven't read a book in a single category. This is definitely making me want to read more genres next year, just to like broaden my horizon. I feel like there's two categories where I'm not 100% sure if I would have actually read a book in, and that's debut novel and fiction. I'm gonna go to fiction next. Good thing I went to fiction next because I haven't read any of these first 12. I do recognize some. I think it's pronounced Mame by Jessica George. I do recognize that one. I also recognize Hello Beautiful. I recognize Jojo Moy's book, Someone Else's Shoes. I have seen the cover before for Tom Lake on Libby, but I don't actually know anything about that book. All right, the bottom 8 saves me because I have actually read a book on here. I've read Yellowface, so I do know that book. I recognize the cover of The Wishing Game. I recognize the cover of The Celebrants, so I'm definitely gonna vote for Yellowface. Word is already gonna put that as a choice. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars, I believe. I am no longer intimidated to try R.F. Kuang's other work, so I definitely think that's good. In terms of what I think is going to be in the finalists, I'll choose 3 other ones. So I really think Mame is gonna be one of the finalists. I'm gonna guess Tom Lake is a finalist simply because it's a Reese's Book Club pick. And then for the last finalist, I'm gonna go with Hello Beautiful. So obviously 4 finalists, with Yellowface being the first one we actually voted for. Isn't that crazy? I'm at least glad that there was one book I read. I feel a little more confident going into debut novel now. I don't know anymore. I just really don't know. We're just gonna have to see. Once again, we're not starting off strong. I haven't read any of these, but I do recognize Adelaide. I recognize Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? I recognize Mame. I don't recognize anything else. Great for me. Oh no, I can't vote in this category. I should have come to this one first. All right, I've read none of them. I recognize The Wishing Game again before like seeing, the other categories. So I'm gonna try and vote for things that I didn't vote for in other categories, and we're still gonna go by rows. So from the first row, I'm gonna go Adelaide. I feel like I've at least seen that on book social media before. I know it's up against Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? I don't care. I'm gonna guess Adelaide just to make this more fun. I feel like in the second row, I'm gonna go with Inkblood Sister Scribe because it has a sticker on the cover, so maybe a lot of people have read it. For this middle row, I have already talked about Mame and the Banyan Moon. I'm gonna give it to Wayward. I feel like that is a cover that is really interesting to me, and I've seen it in another category, so let's give it to Wayward for that one. And then in the fourth category, let's give it to Looking for Jane because we've seen it in another category. I don't know how much overlap are between the Goodreads awards, so that'll be something interesting I can reflect on. And then in the last row, I'm gonna give it to The Wishing Game because I guessed that one before. In terms of what I think is gonna win before those, I'm gonna honestly give it to Inkblood Sister Scribe. That one is the most interesting to me. It has a sticker on it. I'm really interested to see what is actually gonna come out of this category. I do like reading debut authors. I've read debut authors this year. It's just not what Goodreads has in store for me. So I'm really interested to see how some of these shake out with my guesses. Okay, I feel a lot more confident in all the other categories. It leaves mystery, thrillers, romance, romantasy, fantasy, science fiction, young adult fantasy, and young adult fiction. I feel like I read young adult the most. I just don't know if I've read a lot of what's come out this year for young adult. I feel like I want to just get the 2 young adults out of the way and we'll see what happens. So first, let's start with young adult fiction. Okay, yep, already the first 12, I recognize quite a few of these. Checkmate I recognize, but I haven't read. That just recently came out. Like, I don't know if it was the hype or whatnot. I'm so curious to see how that one does. Then we have the Davenports, which I feel like I would have liked better as a physical book, not an audiobook. Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. I like Talia Hibbert's adult books. I don't know how this one's gonna land. Warrior Girl Unearthed. I want it to win so badly. And I haven't even seen the other 8, but like, I just love Warrior Girl Unearthed so much, but I don't know how it's gonna do with everybody like across the board. Never Ever Getting Back Together is on there. I also really enjoyed that one. And then The Brothers Hawthorne. I haven't read, but I at least recognize it. See, I promise I do read. okay? I promise I read. Okay, and then the lower half, I recognize more books than I've read. So I've read Five Survive, but I recognize We Deserve Monuments, Immortality, One of Us is Back, Imogen, obviously, This Time is Real. I recognize more of these. So trying to go with 4 and who I'm actually going to vote for. And I know I'm definitely going to vote the winner based off my personal preference. Like, the winner is just going to be Warrior Girl Unearthed for me. Again, do I think it's going to win? Realistically, probably not, but I think it is like my favorite of all of these, honestly. It didn't get the same hype as Firekeeper's Daughter, and to a point I understand why, but I still thought it was just a well-written book. It was a great mystery. You stay in the Firekeeper's Daughter universe, you see people grow up. I just thought it was a fantastic read. And the funny thing is, I rated that a 4.5, and Five Survive, I gave a 5-star, but I feel like when putting these up against each other, I want Warrior Girl Unearthed to win. Speaking of Five Survive, I will say that one is going to be one of the 3 other finalists that I pick. And then I would say the other 2 finalists, I want to give it to Never Ever Getting Back Together. I did think that was a really cute book. I like reality TV. I feel like it's easily accessible to other folks. And then for my last one, I feel like I'm going to give the last one to one I haven't read, and that's The Brothers Hawthorne. I feel like Jennifer Lynn Barnes just has such a unique way of writing, her fast-paced style, how it grips everybody. So I definitely feel like that's going to be up there. I feel like this is the one I might get the most wrong. It'll be really interesting to see how this one shakes out, just based off of, again, popularity, how much certain folks have read. This one's going to be interesting to see for sure. All right, and I'm looking at the young adult fantasy, just like the little window, and I already see Delicious Monsters. I love Lizelle Samberry. This isn't even fair. I think just from the first 12, my personal opinion is definitely going to be different than what wins. I can already tell just looking at it. Delicious Monsters, I love, but I also love Lizelle Samberry's writing. The cover I felt like was gorgeous. I think it's great. However, Foxglove, I just finished Belladonna. I feel like Foxglove is going to be a great follow-up. I've seen Silver in the Bone before. I've also seen Song of Silver Flame Like Night before. Cassandra Clare's on there for Chain of Thorns. Threads That Bind was really good. I also really liked that one. We have a Chloe Gong book that I've heard of before. These Infinite Threads I've heard of before. I'm like definitely most invested so far in the young adult book. I feel like A Study of Drowning has been all over my FYP lately. Bring Me Your Midnight I've definitely seen before, but I don't think it's gonna win. Blood Debts I've seen all over. Stolen Air I've seen all over. Divine Rivals I've seen all over, and I love Divine Rivals. And A Curse for True Love. I honestly, okay, so my top 4, again, for me personally, I think this is where I'm definitely going to differ from what's actually going to win. I want to give 1 to the Divine Rivals. I'm guessing that's probably gonna win, but that's not what I'm gonna vote for, but I'm guessing that's probably what's gonna win. Threads That Bind, I'm also gonna pick as one of my finalists. Delicious Monsters is honestly gonna be my finalist, and I'm gonna vote it to win. I would love for Lizelle Samberry to win this. And then I would say for my 4th one, I feel like I want to give my 4th one, this is harder than I thought. I think I'm gonna give it to These Infinite Threads, because I could be wrong though. I think These Infinite Threads is the first book in a new, I'm correct. This is the 2nd book in a new series. I am going to still stand by that. I think it's more accessible to read 2 books than to read like the entire Cruel Prince trilogy or all of Cassandra Clare's books. So what you hear next, oopsie daisy, but just enjoy me for this ride and my continued learning. Series. And I think that's going to be more accessible than, for example, the Stolen Air, which typically you read the Cruel Prince series before that. I think it's going to be more accessible than the Sandra Clare one. So those are going to be my 4, with Delicious Monsters winning. I'm like hoping against hope that Lizelle wins this. I really want it for her. I think she's absolutely fantastic. Okay, I am going to, like I said, end this with the romanticities or fantasies. I'm gonna go science fiction next. I'm not confident I've read too many of these. I think I've read 1, which is probably what I'm gonna vote for, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, in the first 12, I see TJ Klune, author that I at least recognize for The Lives of Puppets. I also recognize Pierce Brown. He like went to Anderson's. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Okay. There is one that I've read, and I'm definitely just going to vote for it to win because I thought it was a brilliant science fiction book. And that's going to be The Deep Sky. I rated that a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved The Deep Sky. I don't know if it'll win because I don't think it necessarily has like the same popularity as probably some of these other science fiction books, but I'm going to put it as my winner. I hope it's at least a finalist. This is her debut novel too. See, I've read debut books. I read, I just might not Goodreads read. In terms of other finalists, I'm going to give it to the Pierce Brown book just because I've seen his name before, so that's one finalist. I'm going to give TJ Klune probably the other finalist book, again, because I've seen it before. And then I'm going to give the third finalist spot to I Keep My Exoskeletons to Myself because I feel like I've seen that cover in another category. I don't remember what category it's in. And then obviously The Deep Sky is the finalist and then is the winner. I would really love for her to win. Her and I are mutuals, and I feel like she just did such a great job with that first book for science fiction. All right, let's go mystery thriller next because I really don't know. I didn't mean to make that face. I'm sorry. I saw All the Dangerous Things as one of these. I did not like All the Dangerous Things. I really liked A Flicker in the Dark, but just A Dangerous Things, not my deal. None of this is true. I feel like I've seen that everywhere. The Villa, I feel like I've seen everywhere, but it hasn't been as well received. I've read a Karen Slaughter book before. I'm pretty sure if you've seen any of my other videos, you know what I'll probably vote for, but we're gonna wait. And then for the lower 8, I recognize Alice Feeney's name. I recognize Riley Sager's name. I, of course, recognize Frida McFadden. The Coworker and The Housemaid's Secret both on here. That's gonna be really interesting. My personal vote is going to be The Housemaid's Secret. I think that's definitely going to win. I think that Frida produces books extremely quick. I think there was a lot of hype from The Housemaid and it carried over into The Housemaid's Secret, so I feel like that's going to be the winner. In terms of finalists then, from here, I definitely think Good Bad Girl is going to be one of the finalists. I feel like I've seen that absolutely everywhere. None of this is true. That could also probably be the winner. I just haven't read it. I know my mom is listening to it on audiobook, like on the physical CDs on her little boombox right now. It's so cute. So I definitely think it has appeal. And then I feel like for the third one, I'm not going to go with The Coworker just because I already put Frida as the winner. I just want to like put somebody else in the finals. I think, I haven't read it, but I'm going to put... Oh, this is harder than I thought. I'm between two to really put in the finals. It's between the Riley Sager book. I don't think Riley Sager is like a well accepted person if you do a little bit of research into them, but I feel like they're very popular. And The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. You know what? I'm gonna give it to The Villa. So we're gonna say The Villa. None of this is true. Good Bad Girl and The Housemaid's Secret will be the finalists, with The Housemaid's Secret winning. It would be so cool to see Frida in there twice, but I just want to try to get as many different people involved. All right, romance is next. Already looking. There's a lot of thoughts here. So I have read True Love Experiment. I think I'm going to listen to the 7-Year Slip this year. I actually just bought The Long Game. I've heard of Wildfire. I have read Happy Place. I've read In the Likely Event, and I've read Romantic Comedy. Doing pretty good for the romance category, and it gets a little bit better with the bottom 8. We have Love Theoretically that I've read, Yours Truly I've listened to, and Meet Me at the Lake. I can already tell you who I want to win and who I'm personally voting for because I rated it 5 stars, and that's going to be Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I don't think in general it was as well received as Every Summer After, but I still really liked it. And I think this is interesting because Meet Me at the Lake didn't really have a lot of spice, and I definitely think there are more books on this list that have a lot more spice. And so I'm really curious to see how it's going to shake out in terms of popularity. It's so hard because I feel like in my heart I know like what's going to do well, but I'm going to rate it pretty much based off what I've read because I have 3 that I did enjoy reading. So we're going to do Love Theoretically, True Love Experiment, and In the Likely Event as the other 3 finalists to go along with Meet Me at the Lake. Now, do I think Emily Henry's is going to be up there? Yeah, but I didn't like Happy Place as much, so I don't want to put it in mine. Romantic Comedy, I also did not like that one, so I don't want to put it in my list. The Long Game, I feel like hasn't been out long enough. Yours Truly was also a very, very good one, but you know what? I'm changing my mind. I'm allowed to do that. I'm going to switch In the Likely Event with Yours Truly. So it'll be True Love Experiment, Love Theoretically, and Yours Truly as the 3 finalists underneath the winner of Meet Me at the Lake. I feel like Rebecca Yarros is on a kick this year, but if she sweeps everything that she's in, you know, I kind of just want to like give it to other authors. And then obviously I feel like you can tell just from mine, like I'm not the spiciest reader. So like Wildfire I haven't read yet, Pucking Around I haven't read yet, Powerless I haven't read, Final Offer I haven't read, and those are definitely spicier books. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of takes the finalists and then what takes the top for the romance category in terms of who is voting on it, if it's the spicy girlies or if it's not. We have come down to the final two. I'm going to start with fantasy because I feel like I've definitely read more romantasies than fantasies. I feel like I can't do this again. I'm looking at these 12. I recognize V.E. Schwab's. I recognize Samantha Shannon. I recognize Lee Bardot's. I recognize Encyclopedia of Fairies. I recognize Bookshops and Bone Dust, but I haven't read them. Okay, I have one. I have one that I've read. I'm so glad I did not end on the fantasy category. Now, do I think the one fantasy I've read in here is going to win? No. Am I going to vote for it anyway? May as well. So the one fantasy that I did read was Atalanta, and I'm just going to vote for that to win. Do I think it's actually going to win? No. Do I hope it makes the finalist? Honestly, kind of. I feel like that'd be kind of cool. In terms of what I think is going to win, I'll do my 3 other finalists, and I feel like it's going to be Bookshops and Bone Dust. If I was able to read it, I probably would have voted for it because I really liked Legends and Lattes, and I feel like I would really like Bookshops and Bone Dust. So that's going to be a finalist. I feel like the V.E. Schwab book is going to be a finalist as well. So that's 2 of our finalists. I feel like the third I'm going to give to A Day of Fallen Night. I feel like that's the one I've seen most on my FYP. So we have Bookshops and Bone Dust, The Fragile Threads of Power, and A Day of Fallen Night as who I predict will be finalists. And then we have Atalanta as winning. I just hope she gets to be a finalist. And the romantasy. I am interested to see how the books are going to shake out in this category. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because The Hanging City is in this. And if you don't know, that's romantasy with trolls. I'm sorry. It was a good book. It's just funny to picture what the trolls look like with the humans. So obviously we have The Hanging City. We have Fourth Wing. Shocker. We have Assistant to the Villain, which I've seen. Zodiac Academy. Okay. I feel like that has like a decently strong fan base. The Ashes, the Star-Cursed King. The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King? The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King I've definitely seen before. A Game of Gods, I recognize Scarlett St. Clair's name. Okay, let's go to the bottom 8. Okay, we have Soul of Ash and Blood. I recognize Jennifer Armentrout's name. The Foxglove King by Hannah Wynne I recognize as well. I recognize Throne of the Fallen. I'm not going to definitely vote for that one. I'm not going to put that as a finalist, but I'm sure some people will. Oh, I also should mention I did recognize Hurricane Wars. I feel like I've been seeing that more and more and more. So listen, I recognize that Fourth Wing is probably going to win because it's a popularity contest, okay? And I am honestly kind of surprised that I don't see Divine Rivals on here. I feel like that's been a huge book as well. Kind of interesting because I feel like that is a romantasy. I didn't even think about that. I feel like that's probably the one I would have voted for. You know what? Because I want this book to gain notoriety, because I want there to be a sequel, I'm voting for The Hanging City. Was it the spiciest romantasy? No. Was there definitely romance between the human and the troll? Absolutely. Did I not know it until like 2/3 of the book? Yeah. But I really want a sequel to this book, and so I'm hoping if it wins a Goodreads award or at least becomes a finalist, then she'll write one. And then when it comes down to the other 3 that I think it's going to be, I feel like you just have to put Fourth Wing in there. If this is based off popularity, like I said, I'm pretty sure Fourth Wing's gonna win. I would rather The Hanging City win personally. I feel like you can't talk about awards. I'm honestly surprised Fourth Wing is only in one category. I really am. I feel like it definitely could have been in other categories just based off how popular it was. So it'll be really interesting. So I feel like Fourth Wing kind of just like has it in the bag, but it's gonna be one of my finalists because The Hanging City is what I think will win. And then I feel like honestly the Hurricane Wars is gonna also be a finalist. That'll be my second finalist that I put in there. I feel like I've seen that a ton. And then for my third finalist, I actually really don't know. I feel like I saw a lot about the Foxglove King. I didn't see a lot about A Game of Gods by Scarlett St. Clair. I really don't want to give it to Carrie Maniscalco. I really did not like the Kingdom of the Wicked series, but I feel like that fan base is potentially like pretty large. So I feel like for my, well, and even Soul of Ash and Blood, I think, you know what, in terms of like romantasy vibes, I'm gonna give it to Scarlett St. Clair. I'm definitely gonna give it to her. So we'll do A Game of Gods, Fourth Wing, and the Hurricane Wars as being finalists, and then The Hanging City I think is going to win. I want it to win, okay? I want it to win so badly. I know it's not gonna win against Fourth Wings, but I voted for it. That's what matters to me. So there we go. All of the categories I could vote in, I did. So the categories that I was able to vote in were fiction, mystery and thriller, romance, romantasy, fantasy, fantasy, science fiction, young adult fantasy and science fiction, and young adult fiction. So I will be interested once the Goodreads Awards come out on December 7th, which is a Thursday. I will hopefully be able to react to the winners. I hopefully won't get spoiled before being able to record, and then either talk about my thoughts about the winners, if I would read the books again, kind of have like a follow-up video to this one. So I'm curious what you voted for, if your votes agree with my votes, if your guesses maybe agree with my guesses, because obviously some of my votes I did because I personally like the book better, even if I didn't think it was going to be the one that wins. So I definitely think it'll be interesting. I'm very hopeful for specifically The Hanging City and The Deep Sky. I feel like those are the two that I really, really want to win their categories, but I'm just not sure if they will. So definitely let me know if you already voted in the Goodreads Awards, and then I will see you next week for a readathon. Super excited for that. And then I get my wisdom teeth out right after that. So I have no idea what my content will look like. Wish me luck.